Hello and welcome to the Senior Synth stream number 6. It's Ranzee's replacement show as he is taking a well-earned day off. And before we start, before I present anyone, I would like to say a few words about a good guy who lost his mom last week. Jamie, Jamie Morton from Geosynth. You are in my thoughts. I'm so sorry for what happened, and I wish you all the best. And remember, memories will never fade. So, and welcome to the Synth stream, not show, Senior Synth stream. We have Ken Flux Pierce online. We have Andy Joyce, Synth Addict, and we have Chris Jeffery, Maikshifter, and me, Henrik Larsen, Jax 3D. Welcome.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello. Thanks for having me on the show, Henrik.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Ken.
You're muted, Ken.
You're muted, Ken.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to share the link around and getting a little distracted. But nice to see you all, and I hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah.
Fine, thank you.
Me too. Yeah, and thank you. And also to the chatters, welcome to the stream. We have Universal Vibe, Keith and Watford, Wagoo, Inverted Popes, Maikshifter, and boom boom. Who else? JP Page 2, Inky, Lisa is on, and boom 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 boom. That's about it for the moment. More will come. Oh, Ken Flux came in. Okay, let's start. Should we start talking a little bit about Ken?
About me?
Yeah, about you.
You don't got to talk about me. You talk about me behind my back. That's fine.
Okay. You can just post the links, and we'll talk about you. So I've prepared a short video. It's just I'm a beginner in video editing, so it's just a short funny video with some of your raw material, Ken. So here we go.
It's Flux with fluxwithit.com. Getting the most out of our gear. Getting the most out of our gear. Getting the most out of our gear and our dollar. And our dollar. And our dollar. Gear, dollar. It's Flux with fluxwithit.com. It's Flux with dollar.
Oh, you caught me. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Man, awesome. I forgot about a lot of that stuff. That really brings it back, like way back. Some of that stuff is almost 20 years old. That's like, I feel very dusty.
Yeah, but you haven't aged.
Oh man, and my daughter in there, that's something else, man. Thank you for that. That was wild. And by the way, that the green video with me in the button-down shirt, Yeah, I still crack myself up at that outfit was, it was me. Like, I was kind of joking to some friends when I did that video, and I was like, I should try to be more professional in a video. So I dressed up like that. That's like the only time you'll see me in a button-down shirt like that. So
wearing a suit and tie was just a bit step too far, was it?
yeah, it's just, man, every suit I own is like
I don't own any suits.
procured from like a Goodwill or something, and like I'm just not that fancy. Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Yeah. Why did you start a YouTube channel?
If I recall exactly, I want to say it was mostly at the urges of a good friend of mine, St. Joe from soundsandgear.com and Machine Tutorials, and he's got a gazillion sites at this point, to be honest with you. But Joe is one of my best friends, and he used to. We would have conversations for hours on end in forums. This is going back maybe, I want to say like 2002, 2004, or something like that. We used to always see each other in similar forums, and always ranting kind of about similar topics, NPC forums. And there was a forum, I guess it's still around, futureproducers.com. And this would have been probably like 04, between 02 and 04. And we would just rant all the time about gear, what's right with it, what's wrong with it, what we wanted to change, that sort of thing. And then tips and tricks on how to do certain things. And he had already had a channel, I'm pretty positive, at that point. And I started, he had kind of told me, he was like, yeah, you should put this information out there in the world. And so I started. I think my first video was with like a BlackBerry phone or something. It was really bad. And not that any of my videos now are any better, but yeah, like the video quality, if you go all the way back to the very beginning of the channel, is really, really scratchy and whatnot, as per that era. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there, of like talking about gear, and especially with Native Instruments Machine. When that came out, because it was, prior to that, I was on MPCs primarily, like hardware MPCs. So when Machine came out, I was an early adopter to Machine. And then I was involved in, I want to say the beta team was maybe 5 of us total, something like that. Definitely like 7 or less. And when that happened, I was on the computer all the time because it's Machine. So, I was like, okay, well, if I'm on the computer, I should be doing more than just this. So I started doing more and more videos on, this is kind of before the influencer and synthfluencer era hit. So it wasn't about like just trying to gain views and that kind of thing. It was more just about like, hey, this is like some weird thing that I don't see anybody else talking about. Like, know that this is out here, and kind of like disseminating information kind of thing. But as time grew on, it got a little bit different. Like the landscape of YouTube started to change. And so my channel kind of morphed around that a bit. And then when it got really into like the influencer heavy stuff, that's when I was kind of like, okay, well, I had to make like a choice of like, okay, is this the path that I want to go, or another path? And I kind of chose to go a different path away from that, because, and nothing against that path. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm not a synthfluencer hater by any means. I think it's fantastic that they exist, to be honest with you, because, back in the day, it's like, dude, you couldn't turn on TV, you couldn't turn on the internet or whatever and find people talking about the gear that we all love today. Like, that's something that just didn't exist. So, when I see people hating on that stuff, I'm like, I don't think you know how good you have it. You know what I mean? But yeah, like my channel like bounces all around, and I don't do super quality editing and stuff. Like, I look at guys like Bo works really, really hard. There's a lot of stress that's involved with doing that sort of thing. Alex Ball's video editing is like unparalleled. You know, like these guys, I am not even going to pretend to compete with those kinds of guys. I'm just like, hey, here's some quirky stuff that I know how to do. Check it out, and try not to laugh at my terrible editing. That's basically it.
Yeah, because it is a big job to do such a show.
Yeah.
If it's every week, so therefore I'm quite happy just doing a replacement show, and not having it every week. It would cause divorces and all that stuff. So, so I'm happy like this. By then, when you started all this, and for many years, were you associated with any companies?
So in a way, so it kind of, I was outside working with Native Instruments, but I was not a direct employee with them in any way, and maintained the ability to kind of do my own thing. During that era, so I worked really closely with the Berlin team on Machine. And at that time, it was a really small team. This would have been 1.12, I think, was the first release where I was directly involved in that. And a lot of that stemmed from things like when Machine first came out, you couldn't even truncate. Like, you couldn't chop your sample and then discard the rest. You couldn't crop any of that stuff, which was mind-numbing to me, coming from an MPC, a hardware MPC, where like you had to be really careful with how much time you used and all that. And now I'm like, okay, I get that I have a computer with all this RAM, but you tell me I can't truncate? Like, that drove me insane. So Joe and myself, Suicide Server, and a couple other guys were on the Native Instruments beta team, which at that point, like I said, it was really, really, really small group. I think QA was only 2 people. So it was very like direct communication, which was great. I did a little bit of like contract work for companies, and I was doing sound design at the time as well. So like, but that was all outside contract work. So it wasn't like, oh, you're working directly with this company or that company. Yep.
My mouse is hanging, so I couldn't get to the mute button.
Oh. Floating mouse is a very that's a very specific trait in a studio.
Yeah.
So, I always have to turn on my dual screen mojo whenever I come on the stream. Like up, down, up, down. There it is. On the mouse. There it is. There it is.
I can't do it without a hardware mute button. I got to have a real button. So.
Yeah, but I do have a Stream Deck, but it depends on which window is in front. So that's a problem. I was very impressed about your drumming skills, fingering drumming.
Oh, the finger drumming. Yeah, that was something that kind of came about naturally from. I used to do a lot of like live beat performances, and this again would have been like between 2002 through maybe 2008, something like that. So when we would do beat battles, back in the old timey days, we used to bring our hardware out, which I'm actually seeing nowadays. There's kind of been a revival of this sort of thing, which is great. I went to an awesome show in Brooklyn not that long ago, at the Donut Lounge, and they are doing live beat battles and live beat showcases, very much in the vein that that I grew up doing these sorts of shows. But when I started doing beat battles, a lot of it was guys were bringing gear, but they were really just hitting play. And so like they would have their gear, which is great, but they were hitting play on it. So it wasn't that different. And I kind of wanted to, I come from like a my early days come from like punk rock. So like I was in punk bands and that sort of thing. And where it was very performance heavy. So I wanted to really like bring that level of intensity to beat making and live beat performances and hip hop shows. So it was finding ways to perform live while making the beat still sound like it was sequenced. So I would primarily do the drums would be finger drum and with a few sequenced elements in there, and then the samples I would usually let be part of the sequence. But then it would also be things like I would bring one turntable and my DJ mixer, so that I could scratch over the beats as well live. And then I'd have things where like, man, I was aggressive. I'd be throwing my headphones across the room at people, like, which looking back on it was crazy because I was super broke and those were my only headphones. So it was like, you break a pair of headphones and you're screwed. And I super glued those things back together so many times. But yeah, like the finger drumming stuff, it was like, so it kind of progressed from there. And with Machine, you could do so much with MIDI and VSTs and stuff. Like there was a clip in that video where you see I'm finger drumming two machines at once. One of those was a prototype of Machine 2, I think, MK2, and the other one was the original. And I don't know if it's that same video or if it's another one, but I actually had a prototype of the Machine Micro, and I had it on the floor, and I was triggering the effects with my feet. So I was actually finger drumming on two, and then triggering effects with my foot on the 16 pads, because you could. I think it was there was, what was it? I want to say it was the mouth. It was either the mouth, or it was Tim Exile's the finger. Which was another one that I love that plugin, man. It's so great. And you could just trigger live glitches and all kinds of stuff, man. That's a fantastic plugin that I don't see anybody talking about these days. But if you get native instruments, the finger, that thing is great.
Not the finger, but I use the mouth.
Yeah, the mouth is awesome.
I use the mouth in one of my tracks.
I saw something else that came out fairly recently that's a really similar plugin to the mouth. But I forget what it was called. But yeah, that thing is great for making like bass lines and stuff off of samples and whatnot. Like it's basically just resonators that work off of the frequency of the samples. So super cool plugin.
I saw some videos where I don't think it was you on the pictures. There was some dancing and spinning on the floor. I know you come from a hip hop background too. Do you dance?
I do not. I am actually horrible at dancing. My wife wishes I would never do such a thing, but I will do so when properly inebriated. But I have friends that are excellent break dancers, and I that's one thing that, like, I'm just a nerd, and like that's one of the things that I always really loved about hip hop is, from an outside perspective, I think people get this image of like everything has to be cool, everything has to be very, very slick and stylized and all that. And the stuff about hip hop that got me interested was, Boogie Down Productions and De La Soul and early Wu. It was the whole nerd side of it, where it's like, you looked at like Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One. It was all about discussing more conscious topics and using his intelligence in ways to uplift his community, that sort of thing. And then with Wu-Tang, there's a lot of talk about, chess and mathematics, and with De La Soul and Prince Paul especially, it got really heavy into like the quirkiness and the freedom of just being able to be a little bit off and being able to be kind of goofy and live in your own skin in that way. And you see that with even like leaders of the new school, and like, I'm talking old hip hop here, but you see it in a lot of modern stuff now too. But I think like mid 90s, late 90s, that started to kind of get hidden by like mainstream media, by like, MTV and Power 99 and like, these more popular stations. That sort of style of hip hop got hidden and shoved to the underground. Whereas, it became more like, and I love Mobb Deep, but like it became more like this, the gangster mentality and the rough, more stone face approach, became what people saw on the outside, which I absolutely love raw hip hop like that too. But that's not what originally brought me into it. The quirkiness is what brought me into it. And so I gravitate to really underground hip hop. At the time it was like Def Jux and Stones Throw, like early Stones Throw, Madlib, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so as far as like dancing and whatnot, it's like, yeah, I was never stylish enough to dance and to wear the right clothes and that sort of thing. I was always super nerdy. So I love the idea of like sitting behind a board and just like telling other people like, hey man, you should like in your verse, you should do something a little bit more goofy here. You should let yourself go a little bit on this part, that kind of thing. Like I love the production angle of it. That side of like being willing to, get goofy with your music, but have it appeal to people in a larger space. Like I absolutely love that. So
you secretly wanted to be a b-boy with a cardboard square and all that?
Oh my God, yeah. Like if I had the coordination like that, because I'm also I grew up a skateboarder and broke my leg pretty bad skateboarding, so I can't I can't do stuff like play basketball or do martial arts anymore the way I was when a kid. But man, I love watching people break. And if I watch like my buddy Why Not is a fantastic up rocker, and I watch him and I'm just like, dude, his body syncopation is wild. Like the way that he can move in those rhythms is so crazy to me. And I'm like, okay, that's what I want to produce for. Like I want to make my music do what his body can do, that sort of thing.
It's a bit like MJ as well.
Yeah,
the music
absolutely.
and the way he moved was so integrated that the two.
Yeah, and like when you hear him do things like beatboxing on demo tapes and stuff like that, you hear that rhythm is innate to their being. You know what I mean? And so it's finding ways of getting those innate rhythms and syncopations to kind of flex out in different ways, be it, on a drum machine, on a keyboard, or even, painting or whatever else it's going to be. Like everybody kind of has this vibe about them that can be expressed in different ways. So yeah, when I love going to b-boy events, and I've got some friends that are incredible DJs, and I love just like breakbeat DJs. That shit is so fantastic. I absolutely adore it.
Well, of course it's cool. The smaller the better, though.
Yeah.
No, I think it's the other way around, isn't it?
So what's the future of your channel?
I go back and forth on it all the time. Like I constantly am wondering what I want to do with it that won't alienate too many people, but it's definitely going to alienate people, because like I said, it's going through periods where it's like, okay, like I did like a lot of synth DIY stuff, building modules and building kits and that sort of thing. And I also did a lot of things where I'm like showing sound packs for machine and drum techniques and that sort of thing. And they tend to hit different audiences. So like, I never know, like, okay, well, people are going to be irritated by this or that. I don't know, man. I've been collecting a lot of Marvel figures. I'm a huge comic book nerd. So like, I love that stuff. I could totally see me just like randomly doing stuff like that. Like saying, hey, yeah, for the next like 3 months, I'm gonna do like, you know, Marvel Legends action figure reviews. I don't know, but I think I've got a bunch of videos that I've been wanting to get done that I haven't finished. I have, for instance, the Studio Electronics Omega 8 is right off to the side here. I really want to do a video on that, but I want to do it in a way that's detailing what I find interesting about it, like not just an overview of like, hey, you know, this is that synth, because I'm sure other people are going to do that video and do it better than me, which is fine. But and there's still, so I work for Ashen Sound Machines now, directly, and like I don't want my channel to be the ASM channel, but there, because I'm on the Hydrasynth, you know, pretty much 24/7 at this point. Like I absolutely adore it. There's so many tips and tricks that I have not shown people yet that I'm like, man, like I don't see anybody doing this yet, that I still want to do more videos on that kind of thing. But I'm also trying to kind of space it out, because I'm like, well, I don't want my channel to be all Hydrasynth all the time, because then people are going to be like, oh, well, that's just all he's doing. And it's not all that there is there. And, you know, I've got space on the ASM YouTube channel as well to show some stuff on there. But I do think I'm going to have to do a video very soon on showing analog style patches design on Hydrasynth now that it's at 2.0. Because I get a lot of questions about that stuff, which is, it's a double-edged sword, because I'm at the same time, I like doing that stuff, and you can do that stuff fantastic on it. I'm also like, man, dive into the weeds of like how digital you can make it sound and how interesting that can be on its own. Like that stuff is really, really interesting to me when you get into doing really like things that only a digital synthesizer can do. That stuff is super fun. And I think a lot of people get too hyped on the analog side of things, and they're like, oh yeah, I want this to sound like analog, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, but have you heard this? Because this is crazy.
Yeah, you did some good stuff earlier with before the update with like bookless sounds out of the Hydrasynth. That was really cool.
Oh yeah. And I try to upload like patch templates and patch ideas to the Facebook group. So if you guys go to the it's called the official ASM Hydrasynth Facebook group. In there, like I put files in there for templates on how to do different sounds, and I did a thing of like 5 or 6 sounds recently that I just did a video on, and posted those to the group as well. But I've got so many more. I've got like 70 some odd sounds ready to go, but I want to whittle it way down and release it like only the best stuff. Releasing sound packs is always something that is very like, it's never going to please everybody, because everybody has different tastes. So it's like one person might be like, this is the greatest sound set of all time, and the other person's gonna be like, it's utter trash, and they will rant about that ad nauseum. So
Well,
yeah.
I had fun with that old Stillhouse sample pack you did with your friends a while back. That was cool.
Oh yeah, that was great, man. We actually still have a whole lot more of those sounds to release too. We went to a distillery in Texas, Balcones Distillery, and we set up mics all through that place. We went into the stills, we went into the to the barrel houses, and set up mics, you know, all over the place, and we're throwing stuff and hitting things and doing all kinds of stuff to make sound packs out of that. It was good fun.
Yeah. Now I would like to talk some NAMM, but before I do that, I have a 5-minute video I want to show. It's recorded by Andy, Synth Addict, and it's brought by Ken Spong.
Ken's probably in this because I bugged him a few times on the floor. So.
Oh, he is in there. Yes. It's about 5 minutes, so watch it or make some coffee. Here it comes. That was the wrong one. Here it is.
If you're going over to the drum area, this is where the carpet's going to get a bit soggy from all the drool.
I don't know what that is, and I don't want to know.
And there just happens to be two women sitting
A
there.
sizzle nut. Everybody needs a sizzle nut.
Jeez. Ken, how are you not monetized yet?
Oh, man. I can't think why. There was something in the agreement. I can't remember what it was.
This is it.
This is
Okay,
the
wait.
best show ever.
Which one is sounding like
Yeah.
a distressed goat?
That's where the fox sound came from.
Yeah. Put that fox down.
I don't want to know.
Oh,
I don't want to know.
What the hell's that?
Individual fingers rather than the glove. It's the new thing.
Oh, they're just jamming. Okay, well, I'm
Oh,
down. with it.
who assigned my bass drum to MIDI C? God damn it.
I really want to like this. You know what I mean? I don't know why.
No,
I don't.
No, you don't.
I know. It just feels like.
Yeah, you look like that, so you don't want it.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah,
You're right.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Are you going to play that
No,
on
no,
stage?
no.
What's...
if you would want to look like a cross between Crichton and George Formby, go for it. You know.
Oh, C15.
That is cool.
Oh, cheer up.
Oh, yeah, really.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. Cheer
Nobody
up.
feels sorry for you. Trust me. Physically remove those two men.
Come on, give us Blade Runner, you bastard.
You go, Ken. You need a dancing screen in your
Oh, I
studio.
love this one. This is my favorite. I would just hang out there. Hi.
Do you say French hotel?
Sofitel, yeah.
French hotel is full of promises.
Not broken dreams.
Like the drum room.
And yet...
Look at this. This is sad. They just closed up. They just gave up. This place sucks.
Now that's the Behringer stand.
Oh.
Oh look,
My
there's the
DG is
guy
unplayable.
delivering the Behringer gear. Another Apple server. What else we got? Oh, hey. Let me out. How did we get stuck in here? Fucking hell.
That's great, hon.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year it was well hung.
Hey, I know we're bored too.
Help
I know it
me.
sucks here.
Not all of you
Help
dog
me.
people.
I want to
Bless
go
you, doggy.
home.
You can pee any place you want.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, there's Ken. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
There's
Oh,
Ken.
yeah.
Say hello to Ken.
Yeah, there he is. Get that little explorer. He's like, come on, guys. He's like,
Hand over your money.
He's like, seriously, I'm trying to get home.
You're muted, Andy, just so you know.
No,
I can hear you laughing from here.
Nobody knows it's me.
he's like, yeah.
He's going...
They're really just a bunch of assholes.
Oh, bless you. It'd be good, like this guy. So, what else does it do? I see. How many presets? Oh,
Have you
wonderful.
seen the fox?
I think you need to
Yeah.
open up your
Have
filter.
you, there's a Foxport one, yeah.
Personally, I don't
So Andy, you should just yell out, "Has anyone seen a fox?"
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. Ken
I
Spong.
want to say something real quick. I want to clear the record on this so that everybody knows. First off, before I even say any of this, I'll say this. I caught a lot of flack for wearing a mask at NAMM, and I want to make a couple of things very clear. First off, who's it hurting? Second off, I have special needs child at home with a immune deficiency. Every year that I go to NAMM, I come home and I'm sick. And every year it ends up getting passed to my kids, right? This year I wore a mask. Nothing got passed to my kids. I'm so happy about that. Last year I caught COVID at NAMM and I was down for over 2 weeks with 102-degree temperature. And it spiked up to 104 something at one point. So I was more than happy to wear the mask. And luckily it didn't hinder any of my my interviews or anything. And I was able to, aside from them not being able to hear, but that's because they were live streaming in a building that has terrible Wi-Fi. But that's besides the point. So I wanted to make it very clear. Also, on top of that, I had just gotten over a cold literally the day before I flew out, right? And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be over this cold in time. Hopefully I will. Sure enough, I had just gotten over it, and I thought it best, if I'm going to be meeting, friends like Nick Bat and others like that are going to be literally right in your face because it's so loud there. You have to be yelling, and spittle is going everywhere. Like, yeah, man, I'm not trying to get all my friends sick either. So I wore a mask. And also Alex and Glenn both had been sick the previous week as well. So we all chose to just wear masks to help protect other people from us. And last year, we all got COVID at the booth, all of us. This year, none of us did. So I'm very happy that we took that choice. And if people are upset about it,
you can never apologize. NAMM is filthy.
Cry to somebody else because it's not changing my opinion on the situation.
NAMM is filthy and people are stupid. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, NAMM every year. It's not just about COVID. It's about everything that gets spread around NAMM because everybody is yelling because it's so loud. So spit's going everywhere. Then they're touching the keyboards that they're yelling at while they're talking about it. And then they're transferring it to other stuff. You wouldn't believe the amount of people you see go into the bathroom there and not wash their hands. NAMM is filthy. So yeah.
And the added benefit of wearing a mask for several years is I didn't smell bad breath once except my own.
And literally, that's not even a joke. Like, so many people have such bad breath at these conventions, and it's like, I get it. Water is like $35 a bottle there, so it's like everybody's breath is bad. It's like, So I just wanted to clear the air on that because I was seeing that in so many comments. People were like, "I can't believe he's this naive." And I'm like, "Man, you don't know my situation. Like, come off it." So not to get too into that. I just had to clear the air on it because it drove me nuts that I'm seeing this stuff. Like, you really don't know my home life, so don't sit there and pretend like you do. So
it just became political like so many other things during COVID. So
yeah, and I don't even want to go down that path. Like, I just wanted to make it clear, like, hey, look, fortunately, like a lot of people had great microphones at NAMM. Sonic State does that great thing. They had that Rode clip-on mic with the magnet thing. I got to get one of those. That thing is fantastic. Super easy to clip on, and you can hear stuff just fine. But yeah, so that's that. Also, did you notice that keytar thing? I saw so many different keytar products at NAMM this year. Like,
seems to be the thing.
It's such an odd thing because
keytar 2023.
Every year I see two devices pop up that nobody asked for, and it's keytars, and specifically weird keytars that are not like even typical. They're like, they'll have a touch screen, they'll have something going on with them that makes you go like, yeah, I didn't want that. but they're there. That and MIDI gloves or some kind of device that does MIDI that requires you to use your hands when they know full well your hands are already busy on keys. So those are the two devices that I see every year at NAMM in different forms that everybody's like, I don't want that.
I have to say, though, if you get a chance to try the Image and Heat Mimu gloves, they are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, so those gloves,
about though.
I see them and I'm like, yeah, I get that the level of control is deep, but I had, I've had a few
like
different
goofball
products
using
like
them, but they're fun. So
yeah, but it's like, if you're like, I'm not wearing those while I'm playing keys and doing other stuff. And me personally, like, I want something tactile. What is that device? There's I want to say it's called like a leap or something. It's like
Leap
a
motion?
little.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had that. That thing works fantastic, right? Like it can see your hand in like 3D space and it's really cool. And I used it never because my hands are busy. I'm like, if that thing could like sense my inner trauma or something, that would be awesome. But it's not sensing.
Well, it's like
Like-
Nintendo Power Glove. That was pretty crappy, right? So
That's a classic.
yeah, but it didn't work
That's
very
the
well.
cool. He's gonna show us one.
There's a great angry
course-
video nerd.
Of course, Ken
on
has
the
one of
glove.
those. He's gonna get one, I bet you.
Man, listen.
Yes.
Man, listen.
Yeah.
How is that not in
Yes.
a display case?
Because I use it.
Oh,
Power Glove is awesome. Like I have, yeah, child of the 80s, man. Come on. You gotta love Power Glove.
Well, I hoped it was fun anyway. Besides your reasons to wear masks, of course, there's nothing wrong about wearing a mask. I don't laugh at people wearing it in the train. There's always a reason. But I think the video was funny too. What do you think?
Say again?
You couldn't hear me?
No, I missed that last part.
The video. It wasn't meant to hurt anyone. I hope you.
Oh, no.
You felt some fun about it too. That was what I said.
It's good fun.
Yeah, it was. NAMM was it was really interesting this year, just because last year's NAMM was really, really small. Like, seriously, maybe not even a sixth of what it had been in previous years. Like, really small. So if you've ever been to NAMM, it's at the Anaheim Convention Center, which is a huge convention center, and it is typically completely filled, all floors completely filled to the brim. Last year, the drum hall, which is usually like the loudest area, and it's completely filled with drum manufacturers of all type, everything from sticks to heads, to drums and cymbal makers and all kinds of things. Last year it was, I think, maybe 2 rows, and that's it. And then the rest of the hall was completely empty. This year it was maybe halfway filled. So NAMM definitely is still not back to what it was pre-COVID. Like, it is definitely taken a massive hit. The synth side of things was really small this year. Like, there was only a few Eurorack manufacturers. I saw Volt Per Octave had their I think it's what is it called, Control or something like that. It's like it's basically a computer inside of a module. And of course Corey was there with ModBap Modular, showing his products.
I have to ask something about him. Was he in one of your YouTube videos from years ago under another name? Because I thought I saw
B-Boy Tech Report, maybe. So Corey's another one of my best friends. Like Corey, Joe, my buddy Rod, Steele from MSX Audio. Like, we're all in a group chat, and like we video chat each other like every single day, and we've known each other for
but
people, right?
But it was another name he used. I may be wrong. I'm not good at faces, but it looked like him in a younger version.
Was he bald?
I can't.
Corey's always been bald.
Remember, it was one of your videos from about 10 years ago.
So it's very likely. So we actually met on the NAMM floor. Corey and I met on the NAMM floor, and this would have been 2013. And so it would have, that could be 10 years ago. And we have done a lot of videos together, and we also did Beat People podcast, which we haven't done a show in a little while. We've just been very busy. And I see Wagyu saying the Volt Per Octave module is called the Center, so I want to get that right. But yeah. So we've done a lot of videos together.
By the way, Corey, he's the reason why I bought the Akai Force.
Oh
after
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
him demoing it. So
Yeah, Force is great, man. Like that thing, that's a product that I think does not get the love that it deserves. Its initial launch was rough because it was lacking a lot of the things that it has now. But I would say that thing fleshed out now is I like it more than the MPCs. And
yeah,
you
they
know,
initially overpromised a lot, but it's really good now.
yeah, it's fantastic now.
Yeah.
Like initially, it didn't
They are-
have the arrangement mode, and I think that was like probably the biggest factor that really hurt it. Was
yeah,
not
and
having
then
arrangement.
they removed the person who talked about it, the guy who was really good at
Nick
Nick.
Dukakis. Yeah, his channel's amazing. Go watch him play the live Force. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's really talented and was doing them a great service. So it was a shame to see him to go out of there.
Well, back to NAMM. You mentioned two manufacturers.
Yeah. So I saw those two. I saw Verbose, and I saw who else was there? Not a lot of Eurorack manufacturers. I saw a few of them walking through, but they didn't actually have booths. So I stopped and talked to a few of them. But I talked to Qubit and a couple other guys. But the takeaway from NAMM this year for me was like everybody is waiting to see what happens next year, because next year NAMM goes back to its regular schedule, right? So I feel like next year is going to be a very telltale year for NAMM as to whether or not NAMM ends up going the way of Music Mesa, or if it can bounce back and become what it once was. But I personally, I think it's going to change forever. I don't think it's going to be what it was at its height. I think it may go back to more what it was towards the beginning, which was really about the manufacturers and NAMM stands for North American Music Merchants, right? And it was not originally supposed to be like this big press event kind of thing. It was more about like distribution and manufacturers connecting, that sort of thing. I have a feeling it may end up going back towards that, because you're starting to see a lot of the larger companies are realizing, hey, we can just do this stuff on the internet. A NAMM booth might cost you X thousands of dollars to do that. And it's a lot, especially if the company's not based in California and they have to travel with all the gear and whatnot. It can be a very expensive trip. So I think a lot of people are starting to move towards these like individual live streamed events and individual events where, I think it's still really important to do things in person and get your hands on the gear and talk to people and get to know people behind the gear, that kind of thing. But I think NAMM is poised to kind of change. There was a lot of talk about opening it up to the public, kind of like E3, and we kind of saw how that went. Like that, I don't necessarily think that that's a good idea. As much as I like the idea of like everybody being able to go somewhere and get their hands on gear, it's already so difficult to talk to all the people that come through the booths and to have any kind of meaningful conversation. It's really difficult at NAMM at this point. So if they open
Did you
it
get a lot
up,
of those people? I noticed because they were like double charging normal people to go this year. Did you notice?
So that's something that I honestly don't understand what that is. Like, I've never paid to get into a NAMM. Like, and
I always have to pay.
You said you pay?
I'm a nobody, so I have to pay.
Well, hold on. Yeah. This is a question that came up at the booth, because we were confused as to what was even going on. How are you paying and getting in? Like, what was your process to get in?
So, first of all, because I went a long time ago when Don Buchla was still alive and stuff, with a friend from Guitar Center Pro, and he had to get some guy to get me in because they really used to lock it down. Nobody could get in unless you're industry. Mm-hmm. And so several years ago, I with my web stuff and a website I put up and videos and stuff, I convinced them I'm legit enough to go to NAMM, and they bought it. So I've been going to NAMM since 2020 consistently. And it's easy, but I still got to pay. It's like $140 or something like that, which is worth it to me. But this year they had double the price.
What was the pass classified as when you did that?
Good question.
Was it a press pass?
No, it's just like an exhibitor entry.
Well, see, I think you're doing it wrong.
Not exhibitor, but what do they call it? Expo only. It wasn't. I'm
Attendee?
not going to the classes. I don't
Was
have.
it
I'm
just
just going to the
attendee,
floor.
or
Yeah,
so did you
attendee,
have
that's
to
what it's
join
called.
NAMM, like the organization?
I did initially, but I haven't renewed that. I just keep paying for the expo.
So this is where I think the confusion came in, because I've heard people talking about paying passes. Every year I hear people talking about that. And every year I'm like, okay, like I don't understand, because it's supposed to be NAMM members only, and people involved with the manufacturers and whatnot. So like every year, the first year I went, I had to pass through Avid for Pro Tools. And then so forth and so on, like different companies, or my own website, fluxwithit.com, and my YouTube channel. I did the same thing you did, but I did it through the press pass. That's free. Like you shouldn't be paying anything. If you're doing it through your blog, you should not be paying anything at all. You should be going, if you file correctly, you should have a press pass that gets you in for free. And on top of that, this is the real important part, is that it gets you into the press area where you can actually sit down for 5 minutes and not be walking around and sitting on the floor and whatnot, because the press area actually has like seating and a little cafe.
So one of the categories is like performer or musician or whatever. I think that's what I fell under.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I have to pay, because I can't be classified as press, because I'm not really doing press related stuff. I don't know. It's a weird gray area.
Well,
I'm just happy to go.
If you have a website, you can put it up as blogger, and usually that will work. So
I'll try that next time.
Yeah, that's how
I was just happy to be able to go.
Telling this to all the
before that, I
people
was
out
barred
there
to
that are
entry
watching,
completely.
So, yeah, like if you have a blog, or if you have a website, file it as a blogger, and you have to put links to your site and links to your content.
That's how I initially got in, but I still had to pay back then too.
Yeah, and on top of that, you should be able to get like 1 or 2 other people in. Say like I have a cameraman and I have a sound guy or something like that. You should be able to get more than one person in to do it. That's how I started getting in. I still have all my passes up on the wall over here. But yeah, like, so I was surprised when I was hearing people saying how much they were paying, because I was hearing like $140 and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm okay with 140. I mean, I go to SIGGRAPH, I go to these other expos, I pay a lot of money. So.
Yeah, for what it is, I think it's worth it, but it's still not a especially if you're going there to cover the event or anything like that, you shouldn't have to pay anything, because like
I was covering the event,
Oh, okay.
But I was just having fun. But the riffraff got to get in this year for like $300 or something like that. They had to pay quite a bit.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And considering what they charge for booths and whatnot, it's like, yeah, that's wild to me.
And the first one I went to in 2009, I can see why they didn't want the riffraff in there, because I was walking by Weird Al and Sheila E. and all these other famous folks walking around. Some had autograph lines, some didn't, and they don't want to be harassed, So,
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, you'll see like a who's who in the industry just walking through.
That's like Jermaine and Tito.
Yeah. Dude, I had Corey Feldman in my booth. So
that's what I heard. I never saw him. I walked around and didn't see him.
I ran out and grabbed him. I was like, Corey, come over here.
Is he still doing music?
And then as he was leaving, I was like, look, there's Stevie Wonder. Go talk to him. And he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to Steve. And he like pushed his way all the way through the crowd with his bouncer to get to Stevie Wonder.
He has that great music video shot in the mansion. I don't know if you've seen that music video. That's actually a really good video.
I'm well aware of all his music.
Yeah. But is he still doing music? Is he?
Oh yes. Okay. He's the comeback king.
Okay.
So that was, but yeah, NAMM is at this point where it's still not on its regular date. And I think a lot of that, that's a multi-tiered problem for the industry, because the timing was weird with Easter for one, right? So like, I'm traveling from the East Coast, and it's like we had just had Easter, and it just gets to be a bit much for people. But on top of that, it gets hard to plan for companies' release schedules of their gear, like whatever they're working on. Usually if you're planning a product that you're going to debut at NAMM, right, you would have that planned out probably 2 years in advance. Like you would know, okay, like this is what our goal is, our timeline goal is. It's not going to be like 3-4 months away, and you're gonna be like, oh, we can debut this at NAMM. Like usually it's pushed way further out than that. So having it at a non-typical time, I think, is affecting a lot of people, let alone the fact that people still aren't able to get parts and that kind of thing. But next year, going back to January, it's going to be I think that's going to be very telling, man. I think it's going to be, I'm hearing a lot of people saying that they're holding their products for SuperBooth, that their announcements are all going to be at SuperBooth now, and that's where they're putting all their money at.
Let's go to SuperBooth now. You are going there.
I will be at SuperBooth. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, SuperBooth is fun, man. Like,
looks like fun. Yeah.
SuperBooth to me has a vibe that's more similar to KnobCon here in the States, but much larger. KnobCon is a great event. And like I was saying about NAMM, how it's getting hard to have meaningful conversations at NAMM because it's so loud and there's so many people and all that. KnobCon is the exact opposite. You go to KnobCon and it's like people are hanging out. It's very like family kind of atmosphere. Everybody's really, really relaxed and in a good mood and just not feeling over pressured into anything. So I really, really, really enjoy the KnobCon atmosphere. And SuperBooth is like a much, much larger KnobCon. It's, you know, and the musical events that take place there are usually really great. But I'm looking forward to seeing what gets debuted at SuperBooth. I have an idea about a couple of different things from different companies that I think are going to be really cool. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm not going. I would love to, but I always have a lot of bills here in the spring. So I usually say next year.
Well, and that's how I did NAMM. Is like NAMM, I would do every other year because it was super expensive for me to go. Like the ticket was free for me, like we were just talking about, but still had to fly out and get a room and all that kind of stuff. Like it's expensive.
Is SuperBooth still doing those bungalows, or they have a proper building this time?
I don't know for sure. I suspect it's going to be both. So like last year ASM, we were inside in the building, and that area was a little bit hard for, I think, some people to find, because I was hearing constantly people were like, yeah, we were looking for you, and it took us like 3 days to find where you guys were. And you know, and it was the same for like Oberheim was there, and they were like above us, like in the same building area, but it was kind of a maze getting through there. But then outside they had all these bungalows. I guess there was a what do you call it? What do you call it? People were fleeing their countries, so they were trying to house everybody there. And
refugees.
Yeah, there was like a refugee situation going on. And they were blocking off a large space of what SuperBooth usually is for that. So hopefully that won't be the case this year, and it'll all just be opened up. But I liked the fact that it was like outside and you could go for a nice walk. It was beautiful weather out there that year. So
I forgot if it was SuperBooth or Music Mess. There's that one year where Nick Back got lost and was walking around, and somebody looped the video, so like he's going in circles and circles and circles.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Well, you will present you will stand for ASM at SuperBooth. You don't have any new products yet?
Well, we have 2.0. That's new. It's new for us because we worked on it for like a year straight or so. Like that was a very long development to get to 2.0. That was there was a lot involved.
I have a question about that. You expanded the number of available patches. Did you keep that memory space for firmware? Did you expect when you made the device that it would be much bigger, the firmware? Or?
So that's a typical thing on pretty much just about any digital product like that. It's very typical that you save, like if you have blocks of memory that can be used in that way, you want to be safe with that, you know? So yeah, it's one of those things where it's not necessarily a, hey, we think that the firmware is going to take up a lot more room than that. It's more like, you better be careful with how much memory you have when you're developing your product, because if you come up against problems that you're not aware of or whatever, that code space may be needed for fixes and that sort of thing. So we got to a place now where we were like, okay, like we're very confident in how the firmware is working, that we can open up this area now to let people save in there. So yeah, that's kind of what that is.
But is there more space available in case you decide this is it?
We're very, very limited on how much code space is left at this point, because there's just so much in there. There's a little bit of space in there, but it's something. It's one of those things where it's like, I would say there's not a ton of space in there. Like, I don't want to say, hey, it's 100% feature complete or not. Like, I'm not going to go one way or the other on that, because you never know. But it's certainly one of those things where, like, I myself am, like, very content with where it is. Like, I'm very happy with where that synth has gotten to and what all it does. I also was, it's a very different dynamic at ASM than any company I've ever been at before, in the fact that usually the CEO or whoever is like product lead kind of can't shut up, and they just like, they want to like throw a product out to the world before it's ready. And Glenn is the opposite of that. Glenn Darcy, who's CEO, is the opposite. He's been around the block more times than a few. He's been thrown under the bus more times than a few, by having people announce products way too early. And he is the exact opposite. He's like, no, like, we're going to develop this product. We're going to develop it far to where it's like really good. And then we're going to announce it and release it like right like that. Like, we're not going to do this whole, hey, we're going to tease you with a CGI of a synth that's not coming out for the next 5 years. We're not going to tease you with even like a fake product build that doesn't actually work and show you that, and then it's just out there in the world for the next like year or two. Like, he's more like let's
like the Stromberg, remember the Stromberg?
Right. Well, yeah, and the other thing that is a problem when you announce a product too early is you get people asking about that product, and they start pressuring you about that product. And instead of allowing people the proper amount of time to just work on the product and get it good, you know, so you end up with products that need multiple firmware updates before they can even do the basics of what they were supposed to do, you know. You know, case in point, kind of like the Force, which the Force is a little bit different just because that's like a whole other thing. But more to the point of just when you announce something really early, you get pressured really early, and that pressure doesn't make things easier, it makes things harder. So it's really nice to just like develop something out and then release it when it's like a ready to use product that's actually really dope, and surprise people with it, and hopefully capitalize on the excitement of the initial announcement, you know, because if you announce a long time, that, you know, that may trail off, that excitement may trail off by the time you actually release something.
Yeah. Are there any Easter eggs in the Hydrasynth?
You know, we actually talked about that at one point. We had talked about specifically putting in some other Easter eggs and whatnot. I would say I've seen, there are tricks and things in there that I've seen that I haven't seen other people using yet and doing yet. You know, a case in point would be I did that hidden comb filter video. There's still a lot of stuff like that I think people haven't really seen. But as far as actual Easter eggs, I don't know that like on the old Emu products, you could make like the Emu run across the screen kind of thing. The Emu run. Nothing like that, though. I would love to see that kind of thing. I love that stuff. I love that on the S2400. There's some Easter eggs in it. So I absolutely love that kind of stuff.
No, I'm a programmer, so I hate Easter eggs because they take up precious code.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm no fun.
Well, yeah, but and that's the thing is like if you have space for that kind of stuff, it's fun. But yeah, if you're
Well, look
like
at those
the Hydrasynth
Demoscene
is
guys
very
that make
tight
the tiny
code-wise.
things.
Hydrasynth coding is very like, I mean, it's all assembly code. Like it's very down to the nuts and bolts of it. So you know, and of course, you know, that was ASM's first product. You know what I mean? Like that is there's so much that can go wrong in a product that it's like, you know, you don't want to goof off too much when you're getting your feet, you know, on steady ground.
And have to earn it to be able to do those kind of tricks.
Exactly. And if you're Dave Rossum, you can put an emu run in something because you're a genius. So it's like,
yep. Yeah.
But other products, you know something? I've heard that you know something about something which is coming.
I know lots of stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, I know all kinds of different stuff about a lot of different companies. There's a lot of cool stuff coming from a lot of people, but what I can talk about, no. under NDA or not, like I'm very much a proponent of, you know, if you know stuff, you know, you got to keep it close to your chest because, you know, you don't know how it could affect your friends' businesses and your business and, you know, whatever. But I will just say I'm really happy that it looks like even with all the parts issues that we're having, and there's still a lot of parts issues, man. It's still hard to get stuff. Like I've got a Black Corp Eisner that is the DIY version, and it's still just sitting all in parts because I'm still waiting to get all the parts, and I've been trying to get them since last NobCon. So, and some of the parts are just unobtainium at this point. I need a STM chip. Yeah. If anybody has really good leads on how to get the STM, what is
CPUs.
it? What is it? Hold on. I'm putting this out there now because I need I need that.
Might as well.
So I need, what is
Maybe
it called?
Kent will have one.
Kent's got everything. Kent's the man. Kent helped out a really good friend of mine with some CS80 chips, and man, yeah, Kent is amazing. Like the fact that he even did that was so beautiful of him. So shout out to Kent Spong. He's amazing. Yeah, I don't know what is this chip. I can't even see it because my window is too small. Oh well, it's the STM chip for the daggone Eisner I need, and I need to get some DACs. So many things. Yeah. STM 32H747 IIT6. Yeah. I need that. So if anybody can find one that's not $250, let me know. It should be like a $10 chip, and they're going for like $250 on eBay, something like that. It's insane. But yeah, I think with that stuff getting dealt with, we're going to start seeing a lot more products are going to start flowing more, you know, more frequently from companies. Cause I think, like we were just talking about the, before the show, we were talking about the SP404, and, I had a SP404 MK2, which is a really dope unit. I highly recommend it. If you're into that form factor and all. But I ended up selling it, not because I didn't like it, but because nobody could get them. And I just couldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. I was like, I spent like 400 some odd bucks on this thing, and I was able to sell it for like $6 something. And you know what? You can call it gouging, whatever you want. Listen, that helped pay my car payment. So I needed the money. I sold it. I'm gonna get another one.
You gotta pay rent. You gotta pay rent.
Yeah, man. Like, you know, it is what it is. If somebody's willing to pay a premium instead of waiting 3 months to get the product, you know, I did the same with the mini log. I'm not opposed to that. When the mini log, if you remember, the mini log had a lull where they couldn't ship over enough units, and I think I had gotten it for like around $4 something, and I sold it for like $6.99 or something like that because somebody just didn't want to wait a couple of weeks.
That's right.
Hey, that's their prerogative, you know. If they have the expendable cash for that kind of thing, go for it.
It's the only perk we get as synth collectors, is being able to resell.
Well, and the thing is,
because
like,
I don't resell anything.
I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, yeah, but this thing is worth, like, I got it for this and it's worth so much. She's like, it's not worth that. I'm like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. She's like, you're never gonna sell that Jupiter, Ken. It's not worth anything because it's never going anywhere. It's like, She has a point.
She got you there.
She has a point. That thing is not going anywhere.
Yeah. Damn. Significant others, they know you so well.
Yeah.
I notice you drink water. Okay, it's morning.
Yeah, it's morning.
It's too early for a whiskey.
Yeah, I saw somebody in there asking if it was
looks like moonshine.
Yeah, it looks like moonshine.
It's not moonshine. But yeah, we like jars in this house. We use jars all the time to seal things up and whatnot. So a lot of our glasses are jars, but it's actually carbonated water. So I have a soda stream and I carbonate my water. And yeah, that's. Fancy. And I already had a coffee today, in case you can't tell. So.
Henrik's usually high on tea.
Yeah, I'm on tea. That's right. Let's change the subject a little bit. Chris, you are doing some modular, and you have given me a little video. I'll show that now.
This is the Rhythmo, a single-track 16-step pattern sequencer with 3 gate trigger outputs plus 1 control voltage output. A visual display of the 16 steps, 2 pots and 2 buttons. Above the Rhythmo is another module called the Pot Roast, a simple 4-channel CV generator with switchable voltage ranges. But let's look at the Rhythmo first. I made this device for 3 main reasons. There was a gaping hole underneath the modules in this case. I needed a rhythm generator, and I simply enjoy designing and building musical electronics projects. The Rhythmo has 8 operating modes. 4 of those modes generate Euclidean rhythms, and the other 4 generate random patterns. The range of this random value is controlled by this knob on the far right. For the 4 outputs, there are 8 preset combinations, with different combinations of trigger signals on each output. The 2 main parameters are adjusted by the 2 knobs. The left knob controls the number of steps in the pattern. The right knob controls the density.
Yeah. Chris, tell us about your projects. Well, yeah. What are you?
Sure.
Yeah, you do it.
Okay, that's just the video that's coming up on my YouTube channel next. I've got a few videos lined up of a few of the different projects I've done over the last couple of years, and that's the first one to come off the rank. That's called the Rhythmo, and it's well, the video pretty much explained it. The video was put together, cut down version, very quick, and just threw in a couple of improvs that I was doing over here a couple of days ago, which I need to get ready. So yeah, so it doesn't really show the full depth of it or anything, but it's just something I do. I like doing electronics, and I got into modular quite a few years ago, and things have progressed. As I was doing circuits like that with older CPUs that I knew how to program, and just because I get ideas about things that I can actually create, and at that stage I wasn't really massively well researched about knowing what module I can buy. Also, being in Australia, it's quite difficult sometimes. Availability of modules and stuff like that, it can be quite difficult. You kind of have to wait for them to arrive, otherwise you're paying quite heavy shipping fees to get stuff in and out of Australia at the moment. But yeah, no, so basically I've always been a bit of a DIY. So I've always built modules that I bought. I bought a lot of stuff from Synth, which I think Ken would be familiar with. I've seen a few of his modules. I quite enjoy those modules, and I like the way that they educate you as well. So that's been quite good. But yeah, no, I'm progressing kind of through different projects, and I've taken various weird detours, and that's why the videos I put up hopefully should be interesting, because I've done some weird stuff. Some stuff is the kind of stuff where I think that it's going to be what I need, and then I complete it, and then halfway through sort of doing it, I kind of go, I don't think that I need this anymore, but I persist with it anyway. And that's just one of those things that strange things about me is that once I start a project, I really have to finish it. That not everyone does that. So a lot of people say to me is like, how do you finish all these projects you start? Like, don't you lose interest? And say, yeah, sometimes I lose interest, but I have a drive in me that makes me sort of complete things. This must be something I got from my parents. But yeah, so I'll be progressing with various different projects, and you'll see them on my YouTube coming up. They're all pretty much audio related. So and heading more into the modular. And my latest stuff is a bit more serious. It's actually creating proper Eurorack modules. This is sort of my first foray into proper DIY kits and producing them as a manufacturer. I'm in the very early stages of sort of making that transition, if you want to call it that. This is still a hobby for me, but I have created an Etsy store as my first step to actually just progressing. And I can give that link to Henrik to put out later in the show. There's nothing there yet. As I said, I literally set it up this week. So, but I've also registered a business name. So my stuff is going to be released under Maikshifter Modular. And by the way, Henrik, that's how you pronounce Makeshift. So it's actually a play on the word makeshift, M-A-K-E. So I don't know. I don't know if you were just having fun at me, or whether you're having fun with me, or whether you genuinely didn't know how to pronounce it. But that's just the way it's meant to be said. So yes, that's pretty much what I'm doing. So hopefully there'll be videos coming out regularly throughout the year of that kind of stuff. I don't know if they're any good or anything. People seem to enjoy them, and I have a lot of fun making them. So, but yeah, it's just my humble little experimentations and projects.
I know you have I'm really bad at words today. I had it all planned. You have a what is
Instagram page?
Yeah, Instagram page. Yeah. But you don't have a homepage.
I don't have a like a domain. No, I don't. I haven't set up a domain. I've thought about it. Coming on these shows, I've started to make me think about it. Because I know everyone has a domain. Yes, I really should get a like Maikshifter.com or something like that.
Plus, you're not at the whim of another company when you do that. You know?
Yeah, I hear.
That's the main reason why my friends had pushed me to get mine is, so that if anything ever happens to YouTube or Facebook or whatever, you have your own site.
Yeah, you don't want to put all your IP and your dependency on one platform that's controlled by someone else. Yep, I totally get it. Yep.
Did you 3D print the panel prototype here?
I did, yeah. That one's the 3D printed one. I
have the video up. I'm looking at the panel now.
That's right, neat. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Was it hard to get that all situated with the LED and everything? Because I see how you have like I'm guessing that the LED, the segmented LED, is showing your trigger steps or your Euclidean steps and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or Yeah.
Yep.
That's
basically
really
shows
cool.
you the pattern. Yeah, they're just two 10-segment bar LEDs put stacked to each other, very close on the circuit board, because that's the way you can use them. You can keep them stacking them together. They're originally designed for doing massive 80s spectrum analyzers and stuff like that. But they're still manufacturing and quite cheap, so I love the look of them. I love that orange too. I love orange. But yeah, no, it takes a bit to get everything lined up. But I think that panel, I've only printed out 2 panels before I got it right. So that's just experience. I've been doing CAD for quite a long time now, and I've done a lot of CAD for my friend who owns the 3D printer. So yeah, I'm very good with my measurements.
No, that's nice.
And very, very anal with my measurements. But also sometimes it's sometimes designing in tolerances so that you can move some things around. Some things are obviously critical, but some things you can cut yourself way more slack and less nasty surprises when you design it later on. So it's kind of like knowing when to get really tight and when to relax is kind of the balance when designing CAD.
Are you happy with your FDM 3D printer, or are you going to get an STL style?
I'm not keen on the STLs. I think other people have said the same things. It's handling all that liquid.
The new stuff is better though. It's cheaper and not as toxic, and
but it's
more rigid too.
Oh yeah, the actual product that comes out of it is beautiful.
Yeah, so the fine details are amazing.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'll convince one of my friends to buy one.
They're expensive.
Yeah. No, I'm quite happy with PLA at the moment. It's just one of those things where you just don't expect it to have certain surface, certain surface properties that you can't get. I do a lot of post-processing because I also do machining, and that also involves working with plastics. I do a lot of work in Delaware and stuff like that. So when we were getting the sort of ideas for doing projects like this with like making little knobs and panels and stuff like that, and just experimenting to see how far we could go and stuff, I was doing a lot of my friend was printing stuff just as best as he could, and I just got it and went, okay, well that needs filing down, that needs machining here, smoothing down, and I just added tolerances for that onto the models so that everything gets printed out slightly oversized. I put it on my lathe and then I just work on it. It doesn't take as long as you think. But it's just you just got to do a lot of them, because every sort of third or fourth one has little voids in the 3D printing, and they show up when it's a little bit tricky, but and certain colors also come up better. White is beautiful. White I love because it's very forgiving of surface imperfections. Black is similar, but black can really catch nastily in the light. That front panel on the Rizmo is a little bit problematic. I got a bit of a love-hate relationship with the way that looks. On the one angle, it looks nice and jet black, and that's the way I would love it to have been, complete jet black. When on other angles, it almost looks like carbon fiber. So
you get that record groove effect on it. You can see
So you get that kind of. I just decided, whenever you get imperfections like that, I just sort of say that's part of its charm, and I try to play to that. So the next thing you do, you go, well, rather than build for the way you would hope it would look, you build for the way it does look, and that's just my little tip for aesthetics.
They have like acetone vapor tricks and all kinds of stuff you can do to.
I have heard about stuff like that, and it works really well on transparent. For getting transparent lenses, it works really well, but it really does mess with the surface, and it is quite messy. And you've got to have really, nice ventilation, all that kind of stuff. I find it easier just a good old fashioned polish and polishing the plastic,
Dremel or something like that.
Yeah, I have a lathe, so
there you go.
It makes it very easy to just put it on the lathe and then just smooth it out. I even use very mild abrasives like simple paper that actually brings up PLA really nicely. It gives it a kind of a nice satin finish.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I do other low tech things like I paint grooves. The grooves in some of the parts I print, I just fill with paint, and that gives you that classic kind of you get what do you call it, ticks and diagrams and letters on keys and stuff like that.
Because ABS gives you a nice material, but it has that shrinkage and that curving problem. And
dimensionally it's quite tricky, which is if you're trying to fit something, that could be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So PLA works really well for control knobs where you got to fit on a spline or a D shaft, because I can get it really, really just right, and print out a whole batch of them, and they all work fairly well. So that's that's kind of essential with the post processing I do on them, because as I said, some of them just don't turn out very nicely. You put them in the not so good pile. I use them on my own projects for testing things, and these are the ones that would probably go to a customer if I had customers. So you just basically take the best stuff, give it to the people you actually deserve it. So paying money for it, so should be investment. Yep, I think did we lose Ken?
No, he's setting something up, so he
went to get some real moonshine this time. So.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm here.
I was gonna say, I thought you needed some alcohol to kind of get through my.
Oh no. I assure you, I'm not an alcoholic. As much as I love my whiskey, I assure you.
Nice, yeah.
Chris, I didn't prepare everything with you for this show, so we have lots for later.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, Ken, what have you prepared? You are muted.
Okay, there. I was doing all my fancy work. Oh, it's still not quite all the way there, but no, I was setting up some of the modular stuff because I was looking at that module, and so using that for drum sequencing got me. I started setting up the ModBap Trinity drums. My personal main drum sequencing that I do is I use a Trigger Riot, and I use a what is it, the Beat Step Pro. And so, but right now I don't have them set up because I put that Korg SQ64 in my setup. So I don't know if you guys saw when they did a deal where it was like, what was it, like $129 or something like that. I couldn't pass that up, so I bought one.
Andy got one, didn't you, Andy? You got one?
I did not, because it's this I'm thinking of the different thing. The 64. Yeah, it was super cheap. Yeah.
Did you get one too?
It's fiddly, but it's cool. I actually did a hardware jam with it just to force myself to use it.
Yeah.
And it was very like, oh wait, oh what? And you could try to do stuff live was just a little bit too fiddly.
Did you update?
So I did. I need to update. Yeah, I need to.
So I updated it and everything, but the thing is I haven't really had time to learn it well. So I haven't learned how to do melodic sequence stuff at all on it. I haven't even messed with that yet. I mainly did it for the drum side of things. Because for melodic sequences, I use a Zeta-Ohm Fluxus 1, which I don't believe is made anymore, but it's a very, very, very cool sequencer. I'm finding the SQ64 to not be intuitive. Like it's not intuitive at all, at least to me.
If they made it a little bit bigger, they could have a little more like less divey, less chordal stuff, and all these like combinations you got to memorize.
Yeah, and see, I hate memorizing combinations on gear. Like if it's not silk screened on or like has like a very easy way for me to know what I'm doing. It's like the bigger your gear setup gets, the smaller my amount of retention of that sort of thing is.
Yeah.
Like, I'll use something for like 6 months and be so into it and know every in and out of it, and then not use it for 3 months, come back to it and be like, I don't remember any of those combinations.
You can't even remember how to get started or something. Yeah,
Electron stuff is like that. You forget it really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I got rid of all my Electron stuff just because to me it felt a little too fiddly on that end of things, which I love the sound of them, but it kind of drove me nuts. I got rid of the Rhythm MK2 fairly recently, and I used the Syntact at a synthesizer meetup not that long ago, and I actually really liked that thing. It was quite cool. So I'm trying to like prevent myself from buying one because I have a feeling I'm going to get it, and then the same thing's going to happen. But yeah, so I was setting up the ModBap Trinity, which is his new drum module. It's like three channels of drums, but each channel can be any one of 4 different drum models, and then you can stack the drum models, and then you can also do things like randomize them, and it's pretty darn cool.
So it's not just a sequencer that's got sounds on it.
Yeah, no, it's not a sequencer at all. It's a drum module.
It's a drum module. Nice. Yeah.
Exactly. Which I'm like looking at your setup here, and I'm like, so is it 4 outputs on that?
There's 4 outputs, but they're not 4 sequence lines, unfortunately. They're kind of generated from the one's generated from the other. So I'll do ones where every alternate hit goes onto the other trigger signal and stuff like that. Just a few tricks. Yeah.
And is it primarily for melodic sequencing?
It is primarily for melodic sequencing, but the idea is that at every obviously the sync signal coming in means it can sync to any drum sequencer, which it was doing during that demo. It was syncing to my Lich over there, which is running a kick drum. And usually every mode has at least one 4/4 kick pattern coming out of one of the outputs. So that, for that same
you always
reason.
keep your clock synced.
Yeah, well, I always like to have a kick. Otherwise you lose track of kind of where. And I'm obsessed with kicks. So that's the other reason.
Yeah, the because I'm looking at it, and I see that it has the tap tempo on there as well, which is something that I think is sorely missing from a lot of modules. I'm like, it makes things so much easier when you have a tap tempo button, and you can just, I wish more people would integrate that kind of thing onto their sequencers and modules in general to sync things up. But yeah, that thing looks really fun as far as just hands-on control of being able to, alter things around and move them algorithmic. Algorithmic movements and whatnot are always really fun to play with. Like that's why I use the trigger rack, because if I'm doing drums in a Euro rack, to me it's like the whole point of doing things. Like, I have an entire modular that is just drums, right? And that stays patched as it is. That's my modular drum machine. And then I've got a few other drum modules that kind of float around. So like I've got the VPMDE quad drum and then the Trinity. So both of those are like multiple drum modules inside of one. And those ones I can kind of put wherever, because they're basically a complete drum machine minus the sequencer.
Stop.
Exactly. But the thing about sequencing Eurorack drums is, to me, the point is like I can trigger drum samples from like, any of my other drum machines or samplers or whatever. But it's the weird triggering patterns is where it gets fun. You know what I mean? And it's like sometimes the CV manipulation is cool, but for me, it's really all about like the unexpected happy accident stuff.
Yeah, polyrhythms and whatnot.
Yeah, that's why I like using the Trigger Riot, because it's all like, I use that combined with another sequencer, so it's all clock synced. But you'll get like these random bursts of things where it's like, okay, I know I have like this 4 on the floor kick going, but there's also probability happening there. And then I might do like, on every like 12th or 13th hit, I got something coming in there, and then that has a probability. And so you get all these kind of weird changes that happen over time that you really aren't doing with regular, like, even if you do it in a DAW, it tends to be like a long way around to get to where you're trying to go. And then it's not very tactile to change that stuff around. Whereas on Eurorack, it's like you could just punch stuff up and do all sorts of wacky things really quick. What is it? Oh, he's got the quad drum right there. Fantastic module, man. That thing is, aside from the fact that it does sample playback, what I really like on that thing is it has like physical modeling drums in it, and that stuff sounds so huge. Like it will, that thing will pump your speakers in a beautiful way. Let me see if I can do it. I don't know how.
Hey Ken, did you ever get into grids, or is that too limiting for you?
I never used grids, but I had a lot of somewhat similar devices. So like I had Turing machines and what else? Shoot, what's the other one called? I forget the name of it. It's something like a Turing machine. It's like two Turing machines that kind of fight each other. I forget the name of it off the top.
Ornament and crime, you can get 4 Turing machines at once.
Yeah, and that's another module that I never got, and I think in part the reason why I didn't buy it is because I got shell shocked from having the what is that expert sleepers thing? That's like a gazillion modules in one.
Yeah,
and it looks like you're programming things in Predator's language.
Not the disting.
Yeah,
disting Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, and they're up to 4 now.
Yeah.
Which that thing is fantastic as long as you leave it kind of as what it is. But when, like, I think I had the MK2, and it was like trying to figure out what mode I was in. I had a spreadsheet out, and I hated.
And when you update it, you have to get the new manual that shows the new layout.
Yeah. So the only modules like that I keep now is I do have the Happy Nerding FX Aid, and I have a laminated piece of I have a laminated sheet that I did. You see,
so he knows what the patches he's got loaded in her, because you can choose what patches. Yeah,
there's so many on that webpage. Yeah, just.
Yeah, so the FX Aid is brilliant. I mean, that thing sounds so good, and you could just have like so many effects on it. But I really want to get that FX Aid XL. Yeah. Like I need to get
the XL. The XL is nice. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I need that. I need that in my life bad.
With the Pro and the Main.
Yeah, like other than that, I try to keep modules where I have to switch modes like out of my rack now. Like the only other one is maybe I have an Elements, and I can switch between that into FM mode every once in a while. But and the Ocytron, but the Ocytron you have to physically load the hardware on, and that's a really unique thing. I don't know if you've ever seen the Ocytron, but it has wood that goes at the top and bottom of it, and you take the wood off, and then you can literally put an overlay onto it, and then put the wood on, and it holds the overlay in place, and it gives you a whole new panel. So and I've got the Ocytron Aussie drum panel for it, and the other one is a ARP Odyssey, but it's done like really lo-fi because it's all done on like I think that thing is a 18 mega, so it's like really lo-fi version of a whole ARP Odyssey inside.
It's like one of those Soulsby things. It's
it's a Soulsby synth. Yeah, which is fantastic. I love what he does. Like I think he kind of like. It gets into that like embracing digital for being digital, and not just trying to cover it up and be like, oh, we sound analog. Nah, man, like digital can sound awesome too. Like
sure,
and digital when it breaks is like one of the most beautiful things. I love that broken digital sound.
Well, the ESQ1, the PPG, and all that great.
Oh, I got a SQ80. I've got so many like digital synths, and this thing right here is really cool. Hold on. I don't know if you can still get these or not. I assume you probably can, but it's such a quirky little thing that I recommend anybody who wants to try to do some DIY, build one of these things and have fun with it. I have a couple of these. So this is, there's my camera. So this is the MeBlip Micro. And what's cool about this is, again, this is like an AT mega chip on here. And it's really lo-fi little synth. Everything on it is addressable via MIDI, but you can also wire in physical switches and pots right onto it, right? So if you put this into like a box and then you wire up some pots and whatnot, you can have a full hands-on synth with just this little board here. And it's got this quirky digital sound to it that's really fun. And if I recall, Was this one? Is this the one? One of these had an analog filter output too.
I have an Arduino drum machine kind of like that. You add in all the switches and stuff, and you can go crazy with it.
But yeah, it's just a really quirky little thing. I don't think this one has the analog filter on it. There's another one that I had that I did an analog filter output on it. But yeah, just a really quirky digital synths, and they're fun to do that stuff. And then you pair it up with something like his sequencer, and you can get generative stuff for days. I love that stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff now available for DIY sort of digital synthesis, but it's interesting how it's not all kind of collected together. It's really interesting. It's all these different communities that I've come across, and they've all got I found this thing and I found that thing, and hardly anyone knows all of them together. It's funny. It's almost like we need a place. I don't know, a Discord server or something where everyone comes together. It probably is one. But, I'm just not on it. But yeah, no, there's a lot of small stuff available now, and there's not just the kind of lo-fi, really simple stuff like you showed there, and like a lot of the circuits I'm doing are pretty simple, low powered, low resource, small Atmel chips. But there's now the more high end stuff, and so we're starting to get more. Stuff that's got 24-bit digital DSP on board and stuff like that. That's becoming a lot more available too, which is piquing the interest of people who previously weren't into it. That's the whole thing, because they didn't like the whole fidelity issue. They didn't. They people like Ranzee, for example, who really enjoys kind of a predictable and controllable sort of the way something works and the way the outputs that it generates and what it receives in. He likes his DACs to be low noise and stuff like that. And there's a hell of a lot of people out there like that who would do some DIY if the quality was there. And I remember the stuff I used to work on with these patch blocks. This is an early product. Which I've shown before, I think, on the channel. These little things. These were simple little devices that you could program in a pure data-like interface, and they were battery operated and things like that. People really got into them, but the problem with them is that they only have 10-bit DACs on them, which you kind of gets frustrating when you're trying to generate a sound like a sine wave or something, and you get a sine wave plus digital noise, which wasn't really part of the bargain.
It's a
my
bonus.
Original kick. Yeah, it is a bonus. and if you embraced it, that's the thing. There were people who embraced it, but it was a commercial flop in the end. So what does that tell us? I don't know. But this, for example, is the kick module. God, I've got to get the dust off this. This is the kick module that is now was the sort of prototype for the kick program that I'm now running in my Lish. It's LICH from Befico. I could show you another camera with it, but it's just a module and you can't really tell what it is running on it. But that I basically designed it and sort of developed it in this system several years ago, and just outgrew the capabilities of it. I had problems where it ran out of code, it had bugs in the code, it crashed, the DACs weren't very good quality. The worst thing was that the MIDI wasn't tight, and that was a complete that's a showstopper. I couldn't use it in any of my systems. It was such a pity because I got it sounding good and then found out that I couldn't trigger it in time. That was heartbreaking. Anyway, my stories of woe. Anyway, I've come around now to a point where I've got the whole thing working on my Befico lick over there, and happy days. It's nice and tight. I got the MIDI working the other day. So, yeah. Things have come a long way since I was playing around with those things.
Well, the little bit of DIY stuff that I actually do has been rough because, like, I got the module for the RX5 where you can add your own samples to the drum machine from Japan.
Right.
because they stopped making the pre-made module. And it took me from random vendors. It took me like 2 or 3 months just to get a few parts from each thing, just to build a stupid simple circuit. And so it's not just ICs that are rare. It's some other parts are getting kind of rare.
Yeah. It's stuff. It's stuff. Components fall out of supply. You know, they get what's you got it? They're sort of made obsolete, and they get replaced with an equivalent.
Yeah.
But the bill of materials stays the same, and the people who produced it aren't going to go back and help you.
You have to match
unfortunately.
it.
And that's a really sad thing, is that the whole sort of people producing kits, and then they never update them. But people do. What often happens is that you'll get people who'll reproduce a kit like that, and you go, that looks really familiar. I think there was one, and they changed things in order to work with the chips you can get now, or the components you can get now. That happens a bit, but of course it's a little bit dodgy on the sort of intellectual property sort of spectrum, depending on how you feel about that kind of thing. But yeah, no, the whole sort of, that's one of the problems with DIY, you know, kits is, that's why supplying the kits is definitely the best way to go, because then you can say, I'm sorry, we've run out of this. We're going to be supplying those kits for a while. When we find a replacement for one of the bill of material items, we'll put those kits back onto the store. I think that's the better way to do it.
Well, look at Robin Vincent with the Deckard's Dream. He had to source all those parts individually. I mean, what a nightmare.
That's exactly what I'm going through with the Eisnen right now. It's just, you know, it's literally, I've got just boxes and boxes, and it's, I will say, so those Black Corp synths are quite expensive. I think Xerxes is now like 4,500. I only reference that one because my buddy just got one the other day. But you know, and it's easy to jump out and be like, man, that's overpriced, whatever. But when you do the DIY and you start buying the parts, you realize very quickly, like, oh, like, yeah, this legit does cost this much because I'm buying, you know, a crap ton of parts, and it's adding up very, very fast. And
and time is also money. So unless you really like doing
that's
it,
the thing. It's exactly. If it's complex, if it's reasonably complex, I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell just by looking at a circuit board, or it's, you know, but once you work out how complex something is to actually assemble, and sometimes the devil's in the details, such as getting to that component is really difficult when that component's put in the wrong place, and then you can end up spending hours because you assembled it in slightly the wrong order, and you've got to desolder this, and then that causes more problems. It can add up. It can up to time, but you know, that's the way it is with electronics. That's why it's good to warn everyone about that and make good instruction manuals for your kits, and to always read the instructions.
Yeah. If you're going to build something, read the instructions twice before you even build it.
Yeah.
You know,
and
really
to people. And to people out here who write, there's probably going to be anyone watching, but people who write instruction sets for DIY, put the most important part at the beginning of a paragraph. Don't say, but don't solder it yet.
Yeah, that's so
Put that
common.
first. Don't solder it yet, but this is what I want you to do.
Yeah, that's, I can't tell you how many kits I did where, like, you get you follow it step by step, and then you get to a certain step and you're like, wait, I can't do this because I did this in that order, and now it says don't solder this because you need to do this, and you're like, yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
And don't skimp on the pictures and diagrams, because that's important.
Yeah, more pictures. I love pictures because you can just, you know, every so often you go back to the picture and you just do an A/B comparison. I do sometimes do it through a magnifier, and I can just see when the resistor codes are matching up. That's really
some of the
handy
pictures
for
have
that.
crap lighting. You can't tell what's going on.
That's the thing. Yeah, I'm putting together a manual for the moment for this module I'm building, and that's one of the things I'm trying to, you know, get right, is the lighting and
like the shadows covering what you want to see. And
Yep. That's not a good thing. It's just attention to detail and time. Put into putting it together though. And sometimes, you know, you're keen to get the kit out, or someone's pressuring you saying, we need to sell these. Well, Ken was talking about that before. The CEO saying,
yeah,
"Get out the door."
yeah, and you're just like, man, like I have other things going on in my life.
About what to write first. It reminds me of a test in school once where I think there was 40 questions, and the last question was write if you have read this and skip all the other questions. That was the last one. And people, people have sat down and answered all the other questions. Nobody read it all. So,
yeah,
but
it's a
that's
bit
how
like
we are. We don't read it all.
That's right. Yeah. It's sort of about perception, isn't it? It's the same as the. Have you seen the experiment with the where you're being asked to count how many times people pass a basketball around to 3 people, and then they have a gorilla walk in the park in the background, a person in a gorilla suit, and everyone's too busy counting to know just the gorilla. That's one of the ones I've seen before. It's the way our brains work. You know, we're trying to concentrate on something, and it's amazing what we will miss when our brain is otherwise occupied. Yeah. So, you know, we're not robots. We're definitely not robots.
That's why you can't trust witness testimony.
Yeah, we do to a certain degree because we've got nothing better. Well, we do have something better. We do.
Ken, are you preparing something?
Yeah. I was just going to show because it's not out yet, so thought people might like to see it. So here is the ModBap Trinity and Meridian. So Trinity is out now, which is the one on the left, obviously. I'll move the whiskey bottle out the way. Again, not an alcoholic. And I'll try to manipulate this cable here out of the way a little bit. I've got matter of fact, I'll do this. Sorry. Probably should have done that first. But whatever. Alright, sue me. Okay. So so basically there on the left you have the Trinity, which is, I was talking about that earlier. You've got 3 channels. If you look at the lower half, you'll see that the 3 sets of CV there are all duplicated. So you've got trigger and volt per octave. And then you've got CV over things like sweep, grit, decay, and time. Character and shape as well. And so all of those will allow you to kind of shape each drum how you want. Up top is the cycle button. And what that'll let you do is each time you trigger a drum, it can trigger a different drum sound. And let me, I'll let this run. So basically I'm just running this off of the Trigger Riot right now.
Like a sample flip kind of thing.
So it'll be, yeah. So it'll be a very basic drum pattern. And I'm just going to hit play on the Fluxus one. You can hear that?
Yeah.
Should be coming through. So, and you can see them lighting up, and I'm sure with the delay between audio and video, it'll look kind of funky. But if I turn on the cycle, so this is on the snare channel, which is my middle channel. You'll see that it's kind of cycling through those different models. And what you can do, let's go ahead. So you can make it into a random, you can make it cycle forward or backwards, and then you can also stack them. So stack it. Turn that off. There's also a button where you can just you can select which module you're editing. So if you hit shift and then touch one of the buttons just above the jacks there, I'll show you that I can select which channel and then change it around. So I can just hit shift and then this button here. Now I'm on the kick side, so I can. And it'll go really, really low. And I can, there's a clipper. adjust volume per drum. This is the whole. And then you have an EQ for each drum as well. And then you got this big character knob in the center, and the character kind of changes the whole patch around a bit. So you can. So you get the idea of that, right? Just real quickly to kind of show you all the different types of sounds you can do on that. You can do a ton of different things. But what's really crazy is the Meridian next to it is, and this is still a prototype, but what's really wild about this thing is it's 2 filters, right? And then they're linked by this center prime frequency knob. That prime frequency knob is kind of acts like how on the Matrix Brute, if you have, the 2 filters set differently, then you can adjust them both at the same time by the center knob. But what makes this thing really interesting is that each side, left and right, it's stereo, and those filters can be completely different. So you can have like a low pass ladder on the left, and then you could have like a comb that's a band pass comb on the right, or a high pass comb, or a low pass comb, or state variable filter, or OTA, whatever. Like there's all kinds of different filter models in there. And you've got bit crushing, soft clipping saturation. You've got a phase shifter, which is really interesting. And it's got this in the center where it's blue. You can see that there's I have a white CV input going in there. That is your ping. So it's kind of like having a built-in Vactrol into it. And this is all digital too. So you can kind of adjust things. You can save presets, do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. And I'll give you a quick idea of what that thing sounds like I think I have. So I'm just going to make a random sequence real quick using the Fluxus 1 sequencer. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, because I'm kind of far away from the mic, so let me just set this sequencer up to a scale. We'll do a blues minor, and we'll do a random, let's just do a random sequence here. Okay. And I'm going to unplug the drums for a second here. And so now I have that going there. And the fancy part is when you plug the outputs up, so you actually get sound. So now what I'm going to do is basically I have just a basic saw wave going into it from the Osiris, the ModBap Osiris module. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch through the filters so you can hear how crazy this thing gets. Because it's pretty darn interesting. So, yeah, I had to
Feels
show a
pretty
little
well.
bit of that because it's like it just goes so it goes in so many places that you wouldn't expect just a regular filter module to go. Really interesting module, and yeah, that's the Delta Sep A next to it, which is a fantastic module by Radical. Highly recommend that synthesizer if you haven't had a chance to play with it. But yeah, Meridian is really interesting, and it's under development right now. So it's there's still like work being done as far as gain staging and filter development and all that kind of stuff. There's we're still fine tuning it and whatnot. But Corey has done a fantastic job with that design, and it's really, really interesting.
I like the stereo field you get out of the.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's going to broadcast stereo here as well, because like I've had plenty of shows where I did, and it doesn't go stereo. But man, like I actually posted some videos up on Instagram. And so if you go to Instagram, it's at Flux302. And wear earbuds or headphones when you listen to it, and it's really crazy. Even if you turn your phone sideways and you get stereo, it's really crazy how that stereo field is. Like, I haven't heard any filter that sounds like that. And I'm not just saying that because Corey's my friend. I'm saying it because like I was shocked when I started messing with it. I was like, dude, this thing sounds wild.
So is that a mixture of digital and analog filtering?
It's all digital. It's all digital. So
it's all digital. Okay.
Yeah, and it's he's doing I think it's gonna have a ladder, OTA, comb, and I think there's one other model that's supposed to be in there. What's the other one? Hold on. There's ladder, OTA, comb, and something else. I can't remember what the other thing is, but and then with each one of those, there's low pass, band pass, high pass, and notch for all of those. Which typically on like a comb filter, you don't really have like a low pass or band pass or notch or whatever. But the way that they're doing it is, it's like a cascaded filter thing. So you get these. You could have a comb filter on the left side, a comb filter on the right side, and then but be using like a low pass and a high pass, and had the resonance hitting in different ways. And yeah, exactly. Like you're just getting all these weird.
You got your
harmonics.
left and your right. You've got the frequencies. If this is a frequency spectrum, your left and right, and they actually intertwine with each other. It's getting kind of give you a little bit of that.
Really
wild,
man.
Effect. Yeah.
And the method of modulating all that stuff, like it just sounds really cool. And then when you start adding in things like phase shifting and bit reduction, is like the bit reduction side of things is really interesting too, because it just completely changes it from being a filter into like being this whole like sonic thing where it's
sound design.
Yeah. It's definitely more than just just a filter.
It's ticking our boxes in the modular quest for stereo filter modules as well.
Yeah, for sure. And the inspiration on it really came from the again, going back to the MPC, the MFC 42, which if you had like a 2000 or a 2000 XL, you could connect up this rack unit that was 2 filters, and it had a distortion and a phase shifter. So the Dr. Synth is right. The Formant filter is the one I was forgetting. There's a vocal filter in there as well.
Yeah, I love Formant filters.
So yeah, it just does so much, man. It's such a wild filter. But as soon as I got it, as soon as I got back from NAMM, like it was there waiting for me, and I was like, yes, let's hook this up. But really, really interesting, and like I'm gonna do one. Can you indulge me for a second? Can I do one thing? I'm gonna throw the drums through it and just see what happens there. So
Henrik says yes.
Yeah.
His face tells the story.
There's also
he doesn't
2
need
inputs
words.
on there, so you can actually you can throw 2 different sources into it. So like I can have, for instance, I can have the Osiris.
Yeah,
go
it's
in
left,
also,
left input and out left.
Let's do it like this.
Input left out.
That ain't it. Calm down. Goodness gracious, you're trying to kill me. All right, let's. Okay, so now I've got bit crushing up. Let's turn that down. Turn this down. Do it like so. Alright.
My God, this man's out of control. He's operating his modular without screws going in the modules.
Right, no screws. Prototypes don't get screws. They come in and out of the rack too much.
That was after the screws.
I wouldn't have invited him if he was in control.
Oh, and check this out. You can do this. This is pretty cool. Watch this. So I'm gonna do this. Take this here. Take this here.
I think all the dogs in our neighborhood have started again.
So now we're just doing the kick. And I'll bit crush it. So I feel like Trent Reznor needs that.
Yes.
Nice. I think the birds will sing new tunes when I go to work at Monday.
Mockingbirds are going to copy that one, yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like, I mean, you could just do so many crazy things on that it's super fun, and yeah,
Nice.
like instantly get those kind of weird sound design areas that typically it's like you need multiple modules for. That thing, you're getting it kind of right away. So very fun. But I had to show that just because I got the prototype here and I'm allowed to show it. So usually when I have a prototype, I'm not allowed to show stuff. But Corey's pretty
Exclusive right here.
Yeah. Corey
On
was
the
like, I was
senior
talking to him
show.
about it the other day, and I was like, man, have you heard that it can do this? He's like, no, he's like, I've never made that sound on it. And I was like, well, can I show it? He's like, well, it's announced, so go ahead. It's like, all right.
Cool.
But yeah, super fun, man, super fun, and it's also really awesome to see, like, when your friends are producing stuff that, like, you know, you guys have gone from the full circle of like complaining about gear to creating gear that other people can complain about.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's great too. He almost has a complete modular system now with all of his modules.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, he's got Performer was the first, which is on the other side of my room. I keep that connected to my S2400 at all times. And it's basically like kind of like a CV controllable 404 effects machine. with arcade buttons on it. And then he's got Osiris, which is his oscillator, was the next one to come out. And then what's it called? Transit is his stereo output module, and it's nice because it also has like mutes on it and whatnot, and a nice headphone output. And then what else?
Osiris is all wavetable, right?
Yeah, so Osiris is a wavetable module with 4 banks of wavetables, and you can import your own wavetables via SD card. And he's got a web app that lets you design your wavetables on there as well. So you can import samples, and you can also do like you can manipulate the wave edit on there, which is really interesting. And then Hue is like an effects processing thing of like drive, filter, sample rate / bit crushing, and compression. And what's the other thing that I'm missing? Tape. Yeah, that's right. It's got a tape model in it as well. So you can get like tape hiss and a little bit of warble and some cool sound out of that. And then Trinity and Meridian are the new ones. So yeah, he's got, I mean, he really has been knocking it out the park. And the designs actually look good too. So
cool. Is his background in software development?
No. So he's a a musician and
he's an IT guy, right?
And his professional career, yeah, he's an IT professional. I believe he's got his master's, and and he does project management and that sort of thing.
Clever people can learn anything.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is
that's the amazing thing. Yeah.
I mean, he kind of like he also has a really great eye for design as far as just like aesthetics and whatnot. I talked earlier about how I'm just like nerdy and I don't dress well, and he's the opposite. Like he's always fit and like has like a nice outfit going on. Like he's always matched up good. So like yeah, I lean on him and my other friends for style advice. But when I'm in the studio, I'm wearing Marvel gear and stuff. So
whatever's comfortable.
Got my Kinetic Skate Shop shirt on, so there's that. But yeah, I think he's just somebody who's a go-getter that kind of like he knew what he wanted. He knew that he saw like a hole in the Eurorack community. He saw an opening, and he went for it and really just executed extremely well. I've watched him through the entire process of every module, from like, hey, this is my idea, here's where my knob placement is, all that stuff, and we all kind of like talk about these things, and every time it's like he's like, yeah, I got this idea, and I'm like, man, I want that. Like every single one of them.
That's always a good start.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't think of a single product that he's discussed that I was like, I don't see a point to that. Like, and trust me, there's plenty of products where I'm like,
yeah, he's not just making his own stuff. He's making changes and
he's not making guitars with screens on them.
Right.
So he's not ever once brought you something written on the back of a napkin that you just went, nah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm really trying to think. Which I think that there's honorability in bad ideas. So like that's not
exactly
the worst thing to do.
Point out to make, yeah.
He tends to have like he tends to flesh things out in his head really well before he even like brings them up. Like he'll show us an idea for a module, and it'll be like 90% there, and then it'll just be like minor tweaks here and there, and it gets done. Like the fact that he gets it done is the crazy part, because it's like a lot of us can talk about it, but when you actually get down to doing something, that takes a lot.
It does. And that's one of the things you can sometimes struggle with is actually getting it completed. Because people have a lot of great ideas, and so seeing it through is without losing heart.
Yeah,
sometimes be the biggest issue. So it sounds like he's got the right people around him in you, Ken. So
yeah, he's got a lot of really talented people around him that he's not scared to lean on and get advice from and whatnot, which is really a beautiful thing to see. Like, there's no ego involved there. It's just like, hey, I'm trying to do this, and this is what I want to do. And 9 times out of 10, he brings something up, and everybody's like, well, I don't know what you want to hear from me because you do it better than I would have done. So, yeah, but it's great to see.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I have a hanging mouse again. Well, I think we should wrap it up, unless you have other news to share.
Oh, I have the new ASM synth here. You want to see it? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That's the question I get all the time. Oh, like what's next? What's next?
Yeah, I know.
The new Hydrasynth keytar, right? Isn't there a keytar coming out?
Yeah, it's a keytar, but it has a screen.
Yeah.
And a MIDI glove that comes with it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but let's wrap it up. So thank you everybody for joining. It has been a great show.
Cool.
Good news and
yes, been good fun.
Cool nerdy stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and if anybody's at SuperBooth,
Yeah.
please come up and say hi, because I'll be in a country where I don't really speak the language, and I'm just looking for some bratwurst and some
Friendly faces,
some beer.
And you won't be ridiculed for wearing your mask there. So.
Yeah.
I will send you one of my friends, and he will probably do some video stuff from SuperBooth that I will transmit later, or live. We don't know yet. Yeah. So thanks everybody. I'll have to find the last jingle here, if my mouse wanted to move. Here it is. I think.